This is our project for social justice and diversity.
One way of disrupting privilege as teachers is to employ pedagogical practices which would encourage inclusion and work as agents of equity in a learning environment.
This proposed board game is one such way to do that. It highlights SES as a position of privilege or disadvantage for all the players. As a learning strategy, it would not only commit to learning outcomes, but help develop an understanding among students as to how disadvantage operates in society. This is done with our question tile, shown as a red question mark. Chemistry students in our KLA will be tested on information about chemistry while playing the game and being educated about social justice issues. According to the Australian Professional Standards for Teachers employed by the Australian Institute for Teaching and School Leadership, all teachers must demonstrate knowledge of teaching strategies that are responsive to the learning strengths and needs of students from diverse linguistic, cultural, religious, and socio-economic backgrounds. Socio-economic status is the social standing or class of an individual or group. It is often measured as a combination of education, income, and occupation. Our SES tile in the game is represented by a multicolored cross, and this shows several situations that members of low and high SES individuals will go through, followed by a negative or a positive result. Examinations of socioeconomic status often reveal inequities in access to resources, plus issues relating to privilege, power, and control. The difference in socioeconomic standing between schools is a challenge for Australian education right now. The disparity between results of high and low SES schools is quite alarming. Low SES in childhood is related to poor cognitive development, language, memory, socio-emotional processing, and consequently poor income and health in adulthood. A classroom is not only a representation of society, but it actively contributes in reproducing disadvantage and privilege or reducing inequalities. The tile in the game that relates to this is the equality tile, represented by a green arrow. This arrow, when landed upon, lets every player advance by one space. This shows students what true equality looks like in our society. Everyone gets the same chances to advance. We have to incorporate theory that we've been learning in classes into our board game. The one that we chose for this particular board is Marxism and education. Marx and Engels considered that all historical struggles, religious, philosophical, or some other ideological domain, are in fact only the more or less clear expression of struggles of social classes. Underlying everything as the real basis of society is the economic structure. This structure includes A, the material forces of production, that is, the labour and means of production, and B, the overall relations of production, or the social and political arrangements that regulate production and distribution. This situation in society is shown through the inequality tile on the corners of the board. This shows the difference in power between individuals and shows that those who hold the power is often decided before we are born, or by random luck or chance. When culture is shaped by economic and social realities, the discourse and educational processes in institutions becomes invaluable. People with higher levels of education, as compared to manual workers, are closer to the discourses and subject matter of formal school learning. Now we're going to sit down and show you how a particular game on our board, the Chemistry of SES, would be played. So a game of the Chemistry of SES is played using a simple dice. We'll now demonstrate with a roll. The player has rolled a 1, meaning that her player icon on the board moves forward by one space, landing her on a question tile. She then withdraws a question from the pile. These questions will always be chemistry questions, and often of a level that high school students would encounter. This one is, name the process used to produce fractions from liquid petroleum. A simple enough question. When the player answers this question, they get to move forward by one space. If they fail this question, they move backwards by one space. The next player rolls their dice to figure out what number they will get. She has rolled a 3. Meaning that her player icon moves forward by 3 spaces. This lands her on an equity tile, shown as the green arrow. This means that every player on the board gets to move forward by one space. You don't do the action of the next tile that you land on. You simply roll your dice from the square that you are at now. The next player rolls their dice, and the game is moving ahead. She has rolled a 3, meaning that she is landing on the inequality tile. The inequality tile allows a player in their next turn to roll 2 dice instead of 1, highlighting the disparity in power between the strong and the weak, as shown by Karl Marx. The next player rolls their dice. She has gotten a 4, meaning that she lands on the low SES tile. These tiles let you pick up a situation that often members of families of low SES would go through. This particular one is about immigration and migration. You have just migrated from another country. Since you cannot communicate in English proficiently, move back 3 spaces. These particular cards highlight the problems these people go through, but there are also positive ones. You may be thinking, where does this game go at the end? The objective altogether is to go around the board 3 times. Each time a player goes around the board, they get to pick up a victory card. Once a player has 3 victory cards, the game ends, and whoever first got to the 3 cards wins the game.